Hey guys, it's Paul Myers, licensed counselor, owner, and lead therapist of Intentional Counseling. If you don't know, or if you're new to our channel, we're a group practice in Frisco, Texas. We specialize in mental health and counseling. And today I'm going to cover one of my most commonly used charts. I have lots of charts. My brain works in charts and visuals. I find that it helps me remember things, so hopefully it's helpful to you as well. This is one of my favorite charts. I use it a lot in my sessions. I find it really relevant and applicable to pretty much anybody. And what it is, it's called the Locus of Control. So Locus of Control is a basic psychology concept of where, it's like a fundamental ideology of where somebody attributes responsibility, okay? So there's a continuum or a spectrum. So that's what I've drawn here. This is a continuum spectrum where on this end of the spectrum is the most extreme you could be on one end, and then on the other side is the opposite end of the spectrum. So these are polarized extremities, and then here in the middle somewhere a blend or of the two, right? And so that's really what a continuum is. So this is a locus of control continuum where we have where do people attribute responsibility. That's really what this is. It's a sense of where your responsibility starts and stops, okay? So over here we have what I would call an external locus of control column. I'm going to slide over. So this is external, okay? External means outside self is exactly what you would think it would mean. It's outside self, okay? So that means the responsibility gets attributed externally. So it gets kind of placed off of that individual onto whatever, right? So these people tend to really prioritize themselves, okay? But it's usually to the detriment of others a lot of the time. So some examples, there's a lot of blame, there's a lot of shifting of responsibility off of themselves onto anything else. So it could be another person or in a situation. So let's take some common examples that I like to use. One would be, let's say I'm in high school and I fail a math test or something. So if I were an external mindset, if I had an external locus of control, I would just probably tell myself that, well, the teacher didn't teach me very well. I just have a bad teacher, right? Or the test was just really, really hard and nobody passes that test, right? It's too difficult, right? Or, you know, or whatever excuse, right? They tend to justify and rationalize their behavior and live in denial. They don't really see how their own behavior really is relevant in any circumstance or applicable to any circumstance, right? So, you know, I see this a lot where, you know, if you get fired from a job, well, my boss had too many high expectations and they're just unrealistic and they're too demanding, right? Or you get divorced, well, it's my spouse is the problem, right? It's not my fault, right? And so that's a common way of thinking for external people, where they think that nothing's really ever their fault, at their responsibility, okay? This is also a prerequisite for some personality disorders, if it tells you anything about how healthy that is, right? So it's definitely common. I will say, you know, people that are young, their brain isn't developed, you know, tend to have this tendency more, just because that prefrontal cortex development isn't quite there. That will be mostly developed around age 22, potentially 22 to 25. So, common way of thinking, but really unhealthy, really detrimental to a lot of people. So, number two is on the opposite end of the spectrum. I call it an internal locus of control. So, internal just means the responsibility gets attributed internally on to me, right? So these people usually kind of sabotage themselves, but they usually to the benefit of others a lot of the time. it looks really honorable and noble, and a lot of time it is, actually. I would say this is a lot healthier, because it really only hurts one person, versus this hurts pretty much everybody involved, right? And it actually ends up even hurting them, and really nothing goes well in your life if you don't take personal responsibility of it. So the internal people take personal responsibility, not only for themselves, but for everything. They blame themselves for everything. They think everything is their fault. So use the same examples. I fail a test, the internal person thinks, I just didn't study, or I'm just not smart enough, right? You get divorced, well, I'm bad at marriage and it's my fault. I was a bad spouse, right? You get fired from a job, well, I didn't work hard enough and I was kind of, not good at it, right? So that's the internal way of thinking. Everything's my fault, no matter what it is. So it's that self-blame, right? The good news about internal is because you do take responsibility for you, that, you can at least learn and grow and make progress. Versus external people, most of the time, don't go to therapy. They think they don't need it. If they do go to therapy, it's not because they want to really work on themselves. It's because they want to be affirmed and kind of told what they want to hear and be validated. And usually when external people are held accountable in counseling, they just terminate counseling and they stop. They don't want to go, right? I see that a lot in marriage counseling. Like, one person has an external mindset, and they show up. One person's internal, one person's external. And then the second the counselor starts holding the external person accountable, they immediately terminate therapy and don't ever want to come back. Oh, well, that counselor just doesn't know what they're talking about, right? Versus the internal person, blames themselves. Oh, yeah, well, it's my fault. Our marriage is bad. So it's interesting. It comes in lots of forms, but that's one example. Okay, so we got the internal, we got the external. Let's talk about the healthy, balanced approach, okay? This is balanced, locus of control. So this is a nice, healthy, happy medium where you take personal accountability for yourself, but you do not take responsibility for others, okay? So it's a little bit of both, but it's appropriate and healthy. So we do want to take responsibility for ourselves. That's a good thing, it's healthy. But we do not want to take accountability for others, okay? Because you can't control them. And remember, this is about locus of control, what you can and cannot control. And in your responsibility, it goes hand in hand with what you can and cannot control. If you cannot control it, you cannot be accountable to it. There's nothing you could have done, right? So a good, healthy way of looking at this is inside your skin, you're accountable. So your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, your decisions, your character, your words, your perception of the world, your 50% of relationships. These are things you can control. You can control you, which means you're accountable for you and for everything you do and say, right? All your actions, everything, okay? But everything else, other people, the weather, animals, circumstances and events, a lot of that's out of our control. In fact, most things are, right? And so the healthy person acknowledges what they can control and they concentrate on that and they do everything they can in their control to improve their lives and to serve others and to do what's in the best interest of everybody, right? But they do not take accountability for everyone else's decisions and actions and words and feelings and thoughts. And so there's that healthy sense of separation which allows them to concentrate on the right things, help and discern and prioritize and have wisdom and kind of weed through things when they're having a hard time, okay? So that's a good overview of locus of control. What I've found is the people who are internal, and if you're somewhere along the spectrum, whether you're really severe or you're more mild on the internal, let's say you're here, what will happen as you get healthier, you're going to feel guilty. And you get healthier, you're going to feel selfish and sometimes self-critical. Okay, and the healthier you get, the more guilty and self-critical you're going to feel until you start seeing those healthy results from having that balanced locus of control. And then it becomes a little easier, okay? Versus the external person, you know, let's say the external person's here, they have a very hard time even admitting that they have this struggle. They usually are in denial about this, like, oh, nope, I don't have flaws. Nothing's my fault. You know, I'm perfect. And so, you know, you have, that's an extreme example, but you have this very difficult time for external people to even admit and acknowledge they're external. So a lot of the time, you know, it takes a lot of work just to get them to kind of acknowledge where they are. And then, you know, when they start moving closer to healthy, usually you'll see more softening of their heart, more humility, you know, less pride, more personal responsibility taken. But usually there's a lot of anger along the way, right? Lots of anger. So it's a bit more of a difficult process. It takes a lot more steps, a lot more time. But you know, that's common what I've seen with that. But it is possible for them to grow if they want to. People grow when they want to, when they take ownership, right? So this is very applicable to a lot of things. Trying not to overgeneralize it. If you have any questions, definitely leave your comments below. We try to get back to everybody who reaches out. Subscribe if you haven't done that. That helps us grow. And the more people we help, the better. And if you haven't done counseling, please, we really encourage you to reach out. Counseling just for people who want to improve and be better. It's a non-threatening, a non-judgmental, safe place to just be authentic and have someone who's objective to help you, right? Who's professional. And so go to intentional-counseling.com. And we have either myself or one of our other trained therapists available to either help you through telehealth or in person if you want to meet in the office for in-person sessions. But if you also have any suggestions and maybe some topics you'd like us to cover, please reach out, let us know, and we will produce some content along the lines of what you're looking for. All right, guys, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time. Take care.